Yeah.
It's very, very difficult for sure.
Also, too, you know, I think Jim Carrey once said that too. That, and again, I'm not trying to get dark here, but it's somewhat relatable. Where he said depression is the cause of the avatar that you're tired of playing, that alter ego you're tired of playing. And with athletes, yes, there is that alter ego, but I do think that when you're on the field, that is the most genuine person and brand of what you really are, the type of person that you are, because you can express yourself, any athlete, any sport,
Mm.
in ways that you probably couldn't walking down the street. No NFL player, Cooper Cup and Stephon Diggs, watching the other night and celebrating the end zone. They can't celebrate like that on the street. People would look at them like they're really weird.
Hmm.
But they're able to express their excitement in an athletic arena, in an environment like that. So you're really onto something when you talk about the alter ego of an athlete, and how close it is to who they really are when they're on the field. And off the field, it's almost like they have to come up with that alter ego. Because they always say all the time, well, this is what I'm really like off the field. Well, maybe it's really more like this is what you're really like as a person in
Mm.
general, closest to who you are on the field rather than off.
Yeah, I've heard another example, or said another way, is that when you play on the field, you get to really just continue to keep that child in you alive.
Yeah.
And most of the time, the child like aspects of us usually die off as adulthood comes into play.
Hmm.
And so when you do get, because that is being able to like be genuinely excited and like celebrate without holding back, right? It's like this abandonment of like these restrictions that we feel like we place on ourselves to just, this is how I am normally. Like I'm gonna be relaxed, calm, but like you to actually go out and not have any of these restrictions. Yeah, that is it. It is interesting. And how many times in your life do you feel like you can just trust yourself to just act and do and be and not second guess, not question, and um, certainly like sheds light into like states of flow and whatever else it may be. But yeah, that is certainly something I was terrified of leading up to it. And I know for a fact I'm not the only athlete who experiences that type of feeling either.
But just a counterpoint with women and men, it's a little bit different because there is professional sports and there's always that carrot out there that's dangling. But with women, you kind of know, for the most part, when that end date is, when it's going to be. You know when that death, so to speak, is going. I hate using that word. I'm sorry. When that death is going to occur.
Mm-hmm.
Where with men, a lot of times you don't, and sometimes with men, they crash a little bit harder. Not to take away from your experience, but you do know there's that end date there. But it sounds like you weren't really preparing for it at all. You still weren't really prepared for it.
No, definitely wasn't. I mean, I had grad school set up. I knew where I was going afterwards. I had those types of things set up, but yeah, really just was not mentally thinking about it, preparing for any of that. I wanted to win the national championship so badly. That was like the biggest thing, and then everything else was just going to kind of follow. And it honestly probably wasn't until 2 weeks post, right? You do everything, and I had gone back down to Alabama to help work a camp. And you start to relive some of that fun stuff. You get to be with your teammates again. But then at the end of camp, I moved out of my apartment, moved out of my locker. And that started to be very final, where you're no longer a member of this team anymore. And now, and that's a whole nother identity too, right? Like, well, who's my team, right? So yeah, it was certainly like a process to, recover out of that. But at least the 24 hours following winning the national championship and was very blissful.
Who did you lean on to get through this process of going from an athlete to now your second chapter of your life?
Yeah, that was interesting because I had moved to Iowa afterwards, and I so badly wanted to call my teammates and talk to the girls who were my teammates last year, but in the same breath, my teammates who were younger than me were now part of a team. And I knew from experience that like they needed to make their own team and they needed to do it without the identity of the national championship team. And so I almost felt like I needed to keep distance from that. I had one of my senior teammates, Amanda Locke. She was the only other teammate who had moved out of the town of Tuscaloosa after getting done playing. But I moved to Iowa where I knew no one and went to grad school. And so I leaned probably more on my work. And I talk about trying to set up the same schedule, right? I'd wake up early, I'd go work out. I'd go work out at the place I worked at night. So I actually continued taking swings because I just didn't know what else to do. Still ate clean, still
Yeah.
went to class, did everything, and then I coached at night. And I would pack my day like 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. And then I'd go to bed. I'd be like, okay, that was a good day. But if I ever didn't have things to do, if I didn't have a busy schedule, if I didn't have a job, I started to get very restless. And maybe that's why the book came about too, because I kept thinking about that team and needed something to do, maybe, you know. So when I finally moved home in the couple of years afterwards, it was certainly family and friends. But our alumni is so great with the softball program, so it's definitely all of them too. But it was my work.
Yeah. How did you map out that post career and with everything going on the summer after? How did you map it all out? What was the roadmap for that?
Yeah, I knew I was going to work. My parents are like the best of the best. I had a batting cage in my backyard since I was younger. And so I put out there that I'd give lessons, and that was less about making money and more about just genuinely wanting to give back. I felt very indebted to the game. I still was in shock that I was almost allowed to experience what I was allowed to experience. And the talent, like, obviously I worked hard, but I didn't, there's a lot of people who work hard and didn't have the talent that I had, and so I was just very overwhelmed by, I guess, that gratitude. And I wanted to perpetually try and just share everything I had learned. So definitely gave a ton of lessons, made a lot of day trips to see my family. And so, because I have 11 cousins that are all younger than me. And I had missed so many birthday parties, so many communions, so many graduation parties, so many things because I had softball, and I felt like I want to try to make it up for it in the summer, essentially. So just hanging out with a lot of family, and then just preparing for my trip to Iowa, or my time living in Iowa.